I was just reading up on some sources, and I ran across some interesting comments from Ty Lue in regards to Paul George injury. And before we get into that, though, please subscribe if you haven't already. But either way, let's look at it from this standpoint. Okay, Paul George is probably not going to come back the first round. I mean, I'd be surprised if he does. If he does come back the first round, it probably wouldn't be no more than, no earlier than game 6 or game 7. So, I mean, that's pretty much the end of it. And him not being in rhythm, I don't know how much he would help the Clippers. I really think he would hurt them if he's not in rhythm. I guess just the fact of him being out there, some people would just, rather go with that than rather him not being out there, which I understand that as well. But it's all about rhythm too. But either way, Ty Lue's comments about Paul George was, we're basically not going to rush him back. We're going to take the necessary precautions, and we're not going to try to re-injure him and bring him back too soon. If he's not right, then we're not going to, re-injure him or make it worse. And I respect that about Ty Lue, but I just hope that those comments are true, because a lot of times, you hear coaches say stuff like that to the media, but behind closed doors, in a story for 30 years from now or something like that, or some type of, story will come out where, the player played through injury, came back a little early because the team told him to, and then, something bad happens, almost to the same effect of the situation with Isaiah Thomas, years ago with the Boston Celtics. And he was on his way to being like a superstar type player, and he had a hip injury, and, he didn't, the story was, he didn't get a second opinion or something like that about it. But either way, he was told to come back early, and it messed up his career in the long run. So, I mean, you don't want to hear those type things, and you definitely don't want to, see that happen to any player, especially, a player of the caliber of Paul George, who can really fill up the stat sheet and play, a very versatile, two-way player, and, definitely a star player in this league. So I definitely found those comments to be, delightful, good, however you want to say it, great, coming from Ty Lue. But I just really hope that the team kind of lives by that, because sometimes, as I said, teams will throw players out there, and then when they re-injure themselves, they just let them go like they're not worth anything, or like they didn't, try to help or do anything for their organization, which is kind of a bad thing to see. Well, it is a bad thing to see, kind of to it. But I don't think that's the case with the Clippers. I think the Clippers will try to, do Paul George right. But my thing is, depending on if, where they are in the series, if let's say they're down 2-1 or something like that, and Paul George is available to come back, they might actually try to push it. You know what I'm saying? So, and I hope if they do push it, I hope that Paul George doesn't get injured. But I mean, depending on where they are in the series, I can see a scenario where, Ty Lue's comments don't, come to fruition, because the overall, the team might make a decision and say, hey, we can let Paul George come back. And if Paul George gives a consent, basically, then it might be a done deal. I don't know. They might have him coming off the bench or something. But either way, I hope they don't try to rush him back too much, because that hyperextended knee situation that he had, I mean, you do not want to re-injure that knees, anything like that. You do not want to re-injure anything near those areas. I mean, nowhere on your body you want to get injured, but those are one of those gray areas to me, like anything near the knee, back, or something like that. No, you definitely want to be as precautious as possible. And I know the Clippers want to win this series. I mean, I want to see them take it myself, but I want to see Kawhi, do it. It's going to be tough in this series with the Suns without Paul George. Like I said, I'd be surprised if Paul George does come back. The hope is still there, but I'd be surprised if he does come back the first round. The way things are looking now, I mean, some of my sources that I talk to personally, don't really see him coming back once we, discussed it and things like that. And I'm kind of on the same train with that because it's like, even if he does, like the rhythm that the non-rhythm that he'll have can affect the Clippers more than it can actually help them. So, I mean, it's a tough uphill battle. I would rather say Paul George might come back the second round, a fresh start. But I mean, who knows? Like I said, we'll see what happens. Hopefully, everything works out. I mean, he got reevaluated and everything. He's putting up shots. I see. He's practicing with the guys. I don't think he's doing close to no 5-on-5s just yet. But from what my sources are telling me, but either way. He's still in the gym. He's still he's practicing now. And like I said, he's starting to move a little bit. So that's definitely a good sign. So hopefully things, go up from there. But I'm definitely anxious to see, how this series is going to, pan out because it's one of those type series where, the momentum can go back and forth either way because Clippers have better defense overall as a team. And, of course, the Suns have better offense overall as a team. So when you look at that in its entirety, like, where's that middle ground? You got the Clippers are going to have to find themselves trying to counteract that offense that they have. And they can do that continuously if they focus on the defensive end. And I think sometimes the Clippers get, a little too stagnant on the offensive end and focus on that more than what they really actually are good at, which is their defense, which allows their offense to flourish as their defense dominates games. And then their 3-pointers start falling and it goes from there. It could be an avalanche, from them at times, especially when they start hitting threes at a high clip. But, this is, news, I would say, in regards to Ty Lue, him saying that, to me, this is good news to hear, even though it might not be the news that you might want to hear. Of course, everybody wants to hear Paul George coming back game 1, of the playoffs, or game 2 or before the playoffs start. I mean, of course you want to hear things like that, but, that might not be the case in this situation. But either way, it's good to hear that the organization will protect their players, and not try to re-injure them and just to try to win a series. I mean, I know fans might look at it differently, and I definitely respect your opinion if you do, but, you definitely don't want to put Paul George at risk to get hurt again if he's not right, because then next season, the following seasons, what are you going to have in Paul George? Not much of a player that he was prior to the injury. So, I mean, it's definitely good to hear. But hopefully Paul George gets healthy as quickly as possible because I think the Clippers are going to need him. I don't know. I believe the Clippers can take it to a game 7. I personally believe the Clippers can, beat the Suns, but it's just going to be it's going to have to be a collective effort every single time. And it can't just be one guy. And like I said, it's going to be a tough road. But shout out to PG, shout out to the whole Clippers team, Clippers nation. Because I mean, hey, it's in front of us now. You got to find a way to make it work and try to get through the first round if you can.